Hey, Magic Makers, Kim here. And I have this interesting statistic. Did you know that nearly 45% of women over 40 are eating fewer than 1,500 calories a day? And they still feel like the scale is still punking them. And I want to know, like, is that someone like, is that sound like you? Give me 2 minutes and let's talk about why you feel like your results have ghosted you and why you feel like, I always say I help women who feel like their bodies gave them the finger, and how can we bring back our bodies without feeling like we need to starve ourselves on celery sticks and sadness, right? We don't need that. I spent too many years eating out of freaking Ziploc bag and I ain't going back. And if you feel like you've been eating clean, you've been working out when you can, and you still feel bloated, burnt out, and the scale has like a personal vendetta against you, girls, you are not broken. But your metabolism might be tired of AF. So today I'm starting my brand new series, Metabolism Reset Series. And if you are done with the on again, off again drama with your workouts, macros, the mirror, the scale, my fitness pal, this is for you, queens. This is for you. So, why might your metabolism be tired? Let's get a little geeky for a moment. So, after 40, many people say, oh, my metabolism just went in the toilet. Well, here's the thing. Here's two things that I know. Fact one is that after age 35, we are losing somewhere between 3 to 5% of our muscle mass every decade. So muscle mass gives us that free metabolism boost. So if I am not currently strength training, and I'm sure that every fitness pro you've heard, gets on their soapbox and talks about the importance of strength training. That's one of the reasons why we get on a soapbox talking about strength training, because the less muscle we have, the slower metabolism, less room, less wiggle room. And I'm sure many of you have noticed that you don't have the wiggle room that you used to, that we used to be able to, get away with a little of this and a little of that. Now our bodies are like, yeah, that little of that, we're going to pay for it. So you can't out diet a tired, under muscled body. However, muscle isn't going to come on as quickly as it did when we were under 35. It is going to take a little bit more time because, again, we're working with hormones here. And hormones, they like to just really trick us a lot because, we can't out cardio a broken system and we can't just eat less your way out of a body that's screaming for more recovery and less punishment. Raise your hand if you don't remember the last time you ate over 2,000 calories. It wasn't a binge and you felt bad and you had to make up for it. And that's the cycle that diet culture, and I'm not saying it's you, diet culture brought us here. Diet culture told us that if I eat less and exercise more, that's all I had to do, and I will always lose weight as long forever. And one of the things that my mentor said to me was that your metabolism isn't a calculator, because if your metabolism was a calculator, my job would be so much easier. The calories in, calories out method would work like a charm. However, the metabolism is more like a thermometer or a stress barometer, meaning that your metabolism responds to everything. So it responds to your workout, responds to your food, it responds to your stress, it responds to your sleep, it responds to even your mindset. And one of the things that I've been really, working on with clients is that mindset, because for a long time, my workouts, my physique was my identity, right? I was Kim, the girl who did fitness competitions. I was Kim, the girl who like went to the gym and like was like a freaking beast. Like that was my identity. And I fed into it. I fed into the feedback of like, oh, Kim's so strong. Oh, Kim's ripped. Kim's this. And when menopause came calling for me, those things weren't happening for me. Like my PRs are few and far between. Yeah, I'm still strong and I'm grateful that I spent my 30s like lifting my ass off, but I'm not getting the gains as quickly as I did back in the day. And so the identity shift has been really freaking hard. It's been, a big, mindset shift for me, working through like, how do I just become Kim, who is going to be the strongest old lady on the block? Which very different than Kim, the ripped girl, Kim, the girl who competes. And that's, I'm still wrestling. I'm not going to say that I'm like 100%. I don't think I'll ever 100% lose that piece of my identity, but it will always, because that piece of the identity I feel is helpful to keep me in the gym because I am vain AF. But I think the shift to how quickly things happen for me, that has been something that I've really, really, really had to work with. And something I work a lot with my clients on is that really working on that identity shift. Um, and stress, so many of us underestimate how much stress plays in our health. Many of the lifestyle diseases out there, the heart, high blood pressure, um, you know, even obesity, all can like, we could do a zigzag line and we could find, stress as one of the underlying reasons for why that happens. And, especially now in our 40s, the hormone that is really helpful for us for stress is progesterone. And in our 40s, progesterone, estrogen, all the other hormones are getting a little, wonky. And so we don't have that progesterone to buffer that stress as much as we used to. So for many people, they're like, oh, this is just my life. And, 10 years ago, you could easily handle that. But nowadays, you might not be able to handle it. And, I was having a conversation with a client, and she's just like, some of the things that I used to tolerate with my family, I'm just like, I'm almost on the point of rage with things that they've always done. Like they have not changed, but the way our hormones are, we haven't changed. So like, uh, and it's funny because a really good friend of mine, she is like, the most calm, like even person I know. And she's just like, some days, like my kids, they'll do, the same thing that teenage kids do. And she's like, I just want to like flip a freaking table and like lose my shit on them. And that's 40 something, right? Like we just don't have the tolerance. And so, we have to start looking at ways to truly manage our stress and not be like, oh, this is just my life. Because I can get on my soapbox about stress and I'm not going to get on my soapbox, but it's like, a lot of times we have to look at ourselves and just check in. Like, we're constantly stressing the system with the like actual stress in our life, but the low calories, the poor sleep, your metabolism, is just like, hey, I got to hit the brakes because I'm trying to plug my finger in the dikes of so many systems that are like screaming. I don't know if you ever watched any of those uh like uh like those like Titanic like movies, right? Where like it's the like disaster movies where like, one system fails, then another system fails, and everyone's just like running around trying to like, get something moving so that the plane or the boat or something doesn't crash. That's your metabolism right now. And sometimes it just hits the brakes. It's just like, there's too much and it just shuts itself down. So how do you know if you're in that like disaster movie situation? So one, maybe you've been living in a calorie deficit since 2007 or beyond, right? And you haven't, the last time you raised your calories was because you were on a binge. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm bad. And then you cut back your calories. Maybe you're doing everything right and you still feel stuck. And I see a lot of my women who are doing everything right, right? They're eating clean, they're working out, but still, like something has to be shaken. Grammar police, correct me, loose there. And maybe you're just done obsessing over every damn gram of protein like it's life or death. And I'm in that third category. I was done. I could not weigh and measure my food anymore. I could not track my food anymore. I just was like, Uncle, for the love of God, I've done this for like 15 fucking years. And I was like, I'm ready. I was tired AF. I was so tired. So if this sounds like you might be stuck in one of these zones. And, your metabolism is tired AF, waving the white flag if you feel like no matter how much sleep you get, you still wake up and feel like you could go back to bed. Your afternoon, like you always need that 4 p.m. pick me up. The scale, it goes up, it goes down, it goes all around, and it never has a consistent scale drop. You need a rebuild. You don't need another crash diet. Your metabolism is tired AF. Maybe you're in a holding pattern. This is the second category here. You're not tanked, but you're definitely cruising without a seatbelt. How many of us remember the years that, like, as a kid, you sat in the front seat, and it wasn't by age or by weight. We sat in the front seat. You sat with you didn't wear a seatbelt. I don't think I wore a seatbelt until 8th grade. Um, or you had your mom's seatbelt was like, she would throw her hand out and like, yeah, that's really gonna save you. Um, but here's the thing, you're having some wins, right? You have some weeks the scale goes down, you have some weeks the scale just stays stable. And that's a win, believe it or not, that having just the scale just stay where it is. Um, but you're still having wild swings of hunger, your energy, cravings, and you might just here's where you need a reset to so that you can stop spinning wheels so you can kind of see the holes in your nutritional strategy. And then finally, some of y'all are on the right track, right? There's, not everyone is all doom and gloom up in here. Some of y'all might be, really on the right track. And so what it looks like is that, you got great energy. If you're tired, it's because you didn't get your ass to bed. Strong digestion, you're not having heartburn, you're pooping. The scale, it might be going up like 1 or 2 pounds, it might be coming down 1 or 2 pounds, but it's pretty much, kind of like bobbing along with the waves. And, you've built in, you have some resilience into your nutrition that you're not, like all or nothing, that it's not like, oh my God, I have to be on track all the time, 99.9% of the time. I can never have an off track meal. You realize like life is going to throw you curveballs, right? So when your body senses too much stress, yes, dieting counts as stress, especially when you are like overthinking the shit out of everything. Like, oh my God, I didn't have 30 grams of protein today. Oh my God, I didn't have 25 grams of fiber today. Oh my God, I didn't get in 10,000 steps. Oh my God, I only slept 6 hours. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like your body's like, we have what's called a reptilian brain. And even though we have moves out of the caves for decades, God, millennia, our bodies still think that. Our bodies still think when I'm having those oh my God moments, your body still thinks saber-tooth tiger. And I need to get you to run. And there's no running. It's all the shit that I made up in my head, right? There's no famine coming. There's no saber-tooth tiger. It's me being my own inner critic. It's me beating the shit out of myself. Yet my body senses that it's stressed. And it's like, oh my God. And it's, sends out all the energy for us to be able to outrun the saber-tooth tiger or whatever is that perceived danger. So when that happens, my digestion slows down. My non-exercise movement slows down without me even realizing it. I burn less calories at rest. My cravings go through the roof because my body's like, we need fast energy to get the hell up out of here. And so here's where we have to kind of find that yin and that yang, right? Because our body is trying to save ourselves. It's not trying to sabotage itself. I think about I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure I can't be the only person. You take your battery down to the nub, right? Your battery gets down to like at least on an iPhone, once your battery gets down to 20%, it says, hey, we're in low battery mode. And in low battery mode means that like the screen's going to dim. It might not be running as many things. If you get email on your phone, it's probably, I'm making this number up because I have no idea how many times it checks your email. But like, instead of saying it checks your email every 2 minutes, it might be like, I'm going to check your email every 5 minutes. Right. So it's like in that low battery mode. So the same thing happens when your body senses stress. Certain things start to shut down. Right. So I mentioned digestion. So it's like, oh, we don't need to digest food right now because we need to be running. We don't need sex hormones right now because there's no way we're going to have a baby or because we got to run. There's no way that we need all, so basically it starts going through all of the different systems in your body and starts turning things off. Remember the earlier example, in the podcast where I talked about disaster movies, right? So it's like imagine the engineer going around and like flipping off all the switches for all the systems that don't need to work. That's what your body does in a stressed out state. And if I'm in that stressed out state, how long do you think those switches stay off, right? That I'm in that low battery mode before I plug in. So now your metabolism isn't fighting you, right? It's protecting you, right? It's turning off the switches because we're in low battery mode. And it's up to us to get those switches to go again. All right. So the next part here is a little spicy, but I think you can handle it. You don't need a cleaner meal plan. You don't need to hit 6 days of hit until like you feel like, your arms, your legs are going to fall off. You need a strategy that works for your life, that's science-based, and we need to be able to reset your system, not in a hardcore way, right? So as again, one of my mentors told me that fat loss is not a calorie game, it is a hormonal game. And so for us to it now is instead of us relying on here, follow the plan, here's where I have to start being a little bit more intuitive. I have to start honing into what my body is doing. I had a woman on the podcast who like she was an overexerciser, recovering one right here. And she talked about how when she started her healing journey, she was working with a Chinese medicine person. And the Chinese medicine person goes, her name is Kristen. She's like, Kristen, um, if you can't hear your body whisper, how can you hear it scream? And for many of us, our body has been screaming at us for years, right? The hunger, the lack of sleep, the soreness, the just malaise sometimes when it comes to working out, the overthinking because you want to get it right, because we were told we needed to be perfect, couldn't be average, right? So here's where we kind of flip things around and we focus on that hormonal balance. So it's like, how much food do I actually need to like fuel my recovery? Smart strength training. So it's not about hours and hours at the gym and body part splits. It's like, how can we be smart about training and building muscle? Sleep is a non-negotiable. It is literally like I work with my clients on creating non-negotiables, and sleep was when I first came up with this whole non-negotiables, sleep was my number one thing because I was I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of person. I was I would open the gym and close the gym. So sleep, my body was like, girl, we don't know what this is. And I fought it for a really long time, but now I feel like a rock star when I get at least 7 hours of sleep. If I get less than 7 hours of sleep, even like 6.5, I feel it. I feel the difference in that 30 minutes. And learn to manage your stress like your job depends on it. And even sneaky stress. Some of us know like when we're stressed out, but I'm talking about the sneaky stress. The stress where you're worried about, so even things that you don't think are stress, and I don't want to go, I could do a whole podcast on this about stress. But I wanted you to think about like the emotional stress, worrying about, oh my God, did my kid make the team? Did my kid do well on the test? Worrying about, oh my God, I didn't get 300 grams of protein today. Or, oh my God, I didn't get 400 grams of, fiber in today. Those little things, even though you don't think of it, it adds up. One of the things that was a surprise for me is that I've been wearing this Aura ring for the past year now. And one of the things that was very surprising about stress, this podcast. I don't think this. I love this podcast. I'm doesn't cause me stress. At least I didn't think it caused me stress. But what it causes is that I want this podcast to be great, right? So like my energy is heightened because I want to bring the energy, and it's like after I do this, I need to do something that helps me bring my stress level back down. So I can't do a solo episode and then go into like a podcast interview because my stress levels will be super high. So it's been a really interesting, checking in on what, varying stress levels. Cause right now I don't feel stressed, but I'm going to look at my Ring is going to be like, girl, you were stressed for 25 minutes. So really thinking about what that looks like. And again, I'm going to have a whole podcast about stress because I think it's just so underrated as to why I'm not getting results. Because, imagine, waking up with energy. Imagine no longer having that 3 p.m., 4 p.m. energy crash, eating real meals and feeling satisfied and not wondering what did you miss in your checklist of meals. And finally, like actually like trusting your body and being like, you know what? I ate this and I feel satisfied. I don't feel stuffed. I don't feel bloated. I don't feel like I'm going to poop my pants. I don't feel like I'm going to burp up everything. Right. So if you're nodding along right here, it's time to stop guessing and knowing. I created a free quiz called Is Your Metabolism Tired AF? It's fast, it's fun, it's a little sciencey because I got to throw it in there just so you kind of know that I didn't just make this shit up. Um, and in the show notes, you'll find that link. But here's where you're gonna find out: like, is your metabolism tired? Is it in a holding pattern, or are you right on track? Because once you know that, you can finally decide what actions you're going to take and you can move forward. All right. So this is episode 1. Next episode, we're going to talk about if your metabolism's tired AF, what the heck do you do about it? All right. So thank you so much, Magic Makers. Enjoy your day. And I would love it if you know of somebody who is or needs to hear this. Share it. Share it out and just be like, hey, girl, you need this in your life. All right, Magic Makers, enjoy the rest of your day. And I will talk to you next week.